Hi everyone. Today's topic is heart failure. Heart failure is not the myocardial infarction. It is not a coronary artery disease. It is a pathophysiological state when the cardiac performance is too low to maintain the cardiac output, to meet the demands of the metabolizing tissues. Let us discuss it under the following headings: heart failure, introduction, types of heart failure, overload, volume and pressure overload, and then the clinical aspects. Heart failure. So, complex clinical syndrome that can result from any structural or functional cardiac disorder that impairs the ability of the ventricles to pump the blood adequately to meet the tissue oxygen demand. So the health conditions that either damage the heart or make it work too hard. So coronary artery disease, myocardial infarction, cardiomyopathy, or myocarditis. So heart failure is caused by systemic hypertension in 75% of the cases. Structural heart changes such as valvular dysfunction cause pressure or volume overload on the heart. Heart is unable to meet the tissue oxygen requirements. In case of congenital heart disease, severe lung disease, diabetes, severe anemia, hyperthyroidism, and abnormal heart rhythms, arrhythmia. So the risk factor for the heart failures are hypotension, fluid retention, and worsening of congenital heart disease, congestive heart failure, bradycardia, and heart block. So let us know what is preload and afterload. So the pathophysiology we must know before going into the topic. So preload is the volume overload. So that is the volume of blood in the ventricles at the end of diastole. So there is increase in volume load, hypervolemia, and regurgitation of cardiac walls and the heart failure. So the volume overload is what is called as preload, and then afterload. So afterload is here you can see the resistance of the vessels of the arteries. So when there is increased pressure over there, so all the blood from the ventricles will not get into the vessels. So resistance of the left ventricle must overcome the pressure in the aorta or the large arteries to circulate the blood and to meet the demand of the tissues oxygen consumption. So in case of hypertension and severe vasoconstrictions of the arteries can cause this. This is pressure overload and not volume overload. Volume overload is preload and afterload is pressure overload. So this gets increased in hypertension and vasoconstriction. When afterload increases, the cardiac workload also gets increased. Types of heart failure. So depending on the onset, acute and chronic heart failure. Acute heart failure develops suddenly in the patients with the myocardial infarction, so no edema, whereas chronic heart failure develops due to gradual deterioration of the heart functions, as in patients suffering from valvular diseases. So that happens, cardiomyopathy and edema. And then dystolic dysfunction in the diastolic dysfunction. Systolic dysfunction occurs due to poor myocardial contractility, so no contraction, poor systolic function. Diastolic heart failure, so that is because of the poor ventricular filling. So this is because of the defective relaxation. So diastolic heart failure. So both this systolic and diastolic heart failures coexist. So that too particularly in the uh, myocardial infarction. But most of the time myocardial infarction presents as systolic dysfunction, and diastolic dysfunction example is restrictive cardiomyopathy. So here you can see the systolic dysfunction, so weak thin heart muscle. So systolic etiologies like ischemic heart disease, chronic hypertension, dilated cardiomyopathy, and myocarditis. Diastolic dysfunction, so this is impaired filling or the relaxation. So but the ejection fraction is normal as the contractility is obtained. So here stiff thick heart muscle is present. So the etiology is hypertension with the left ventricular hypertrophy, restrictive and hypertrophic cardiomyopathies, fibrosis, amyloidosis, sarcoidosis, restrictive pericarditis, hemochromatosis, valvular disease, and also aging. But watch out for the hypertension. And then low and high cardiac output. So high cardiac output failure, that is a state in which the cardiac output remains high. So that is uh, up to the upper limit of the normal cardiac output. So even though the cardiac functions are depressed, so various conditions that result in high output failures are fever, anemia, thyrotoxicosis, and then low output failure. So in this, the cardiac output remains at its lowest. So even at rest and in any stressful conditions, so that gets further deteriorated. So as in case of heart failure, secondary to ischemic heart disease, and then hypertension, valvular diseases, and pericardial diseases. Forward and backward failure. Forward failure results due to inadequate cardiac output, whereas backward failure is the one in which decreased cardiac output results in elevation of the end diastolic volume and thus increases the ventricular pressure. So the elevation of the left and right ventricular pressure results in pulmonary and systemic congestions. And then left-sided and the right-sided heart failure. So this is depending on the involvement of the side of the heart. So right-sided and left-sided. Right-sided. Uh, so anatomically, right heart includes right atrium, right ventricle, and then tricuspid and pulmonary valves. So right heart failure is a condition in which there is reduction in right ventricular output leading to rise in right ventricular and right atrial pressure, which further causes rise in jugular venous pressure. Then edema, congestive hepatomegaly, and congestion of all other viscera but except the lungs. And then left heart failure. So anatomically, left heart compromises left atrium, left ventricle, aortic valve, and mitral valve. The left heart failure therefore refers to reduction in left ventricular output leading to elevation of left ventricular volume and pressure and its transmission to the left atrium in the pulmonary veins. So the condition causing left heart failures are left ventricular outflow obstruction, that is so increased afterload, systemic hypertension, aortic valve stenosis, and coarctation of aorta. So left ventricular inflow obstruction can be due to mitral stenosis. Reduced ventricular contractility can be due to cardiomyopathy, particularly involving the left ventricle, and also anterior wall myocardial infarction. Coming to the pathophysiology of the heart failure. So you must be knowing the Frank-Starling's law. So within the physiological limits, the force of ventricular contraction is a function of end diastolic length of the cardiac muscle, which in turn is closely related to the ventricular end diastolic volume. So this is achieved by increasing the length of the sarcomeres of the myocardium in the dilated heart, and that increases the myocardial contractility and thereby that attempts to maintain the stroke volume. So heart failure results in the depression of the ventricular function. So compensation in the form of stretching of the myocardial fibers results in cardiac dilatation or hypertrophy. Stretching of the myocardium leads to cardiac dilatation, which occurs when the left ventricle particularly fails to eject its normal end diastolic volume. So either volume overload or pressure overload. So when there is more end diastolic volume, so left ventricle couldn't pump all the volume, so that causes the dilatation of the myocardium. Compensatory mechanism, so they play a role. compensatory enlargement in the form of cardiac hypertrophy or cardiac dilatation or both. Tachycardia, that is increased heart rate due to the activation of neurohumoral system. So for example, release of norepinephrine and atrial natriuretic peptide, and then activation of RAS mechanism. So other mechanisms also cause myocardial hypertrophy and also alters the cardiac rhythm, causing the arrhythmia. So left ventricular failure can happen due to ischemic heart disease, myocarditis, valvular heart disease, and restrictive pericarditis. Right ventricular failure can happen due to cor pulmonale, right-sided valvular disease, right-sided myocardial disease, and the pulmonary hypertension. So the compensatory mechanism is the activation of norepinephrine and atrial natriuretic peptide and activation of RAS and the increase in the myocardial contractility. So activation of norepinephrine and atrial natriuretic peptide causes tachycardia, and that causes further stress on the myocardium, which leads on to the congestive heart failure. So activation of RAS, vasoconstriction, and also sodium and water retention. So further stress on the myocardium, congestive heart failure. So when there is increased myocardial contractility, so there will be overload in the heart and cell stretching. So that causes compensatory hypertrophy and the dilatation. So renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. So renin converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1 and then angiotensin 2. So this angiotensin 2 causes peripheral vasoconstriction. So vasoconstriction causes increase in the afterload. So cardiac output decreases. So that causes the heart failure. When there is more aldosterone secretion, so that causes the retention of salt and water, edema. So plasma volume increases, the preload increases. So cardiac workload that increases. So that causes the heart failure. So heart failure, it is the inability of the heart to provide sufficient output to meet the oxygen demand of the tissues. So variety of disorders can lead to low or high output failure, as we have discussed earlier. So when there is an increased afterload, that is the resistance in the peripheral vessels increases, so output is getting difficult. So RAS hormones does that, and also that the increase in the sodium and water retention causes increase in the preload. So that causes the congestion of the pulmonary and the systemic circulation. So there will be a release of the antidiuretic hormone from the brain. Brain also increases the increased sympathetic nerve system activity. So it the further response from the neuro hormones, so that worsens the heart failure further. So finally, you can see the dilatation and hypertension happens, and that uh, can compensate a bit. So this is the left ventricular hypertrophy, and this is the left ventricular dilatation. So hypertrophy, you can see there is thickening of the ventricular wall. So it is hypertrophy. Here it is dilatation. So following hypertrophy, dilatation can happen. So there are two types of hypertrophy. One is concentric and eccentric. Concentric is when there is pressure overload, so increase in the left ventricular mass and increase relative wall thickness. Volume overload is eccentric hypertrophy, and increase in the left ventricular mass happens, but wall thickness is relatively normal. This is one of my favorite slide of my teacher who taught me the heart failure, the neurohormonal effects of the heart failure. So the various hormones involved in the process. So we know that there are backward failure and the forward failure. So backward failure is gets into the lungs and the left ventricle, and forward failure is because of the low blood pressure and poor organ perfusion. So when kidney receives poor blood, so that activates RAS. So volume increases by the sodium retention and the water retention. So baroreceptor gets activated. So sympathetic system gets activated. So vasoconstriction, after load increases. So AVP that increases a preload. This is vasopressin. So further increasing the backward failure. And these are all further deteriorates the condition. So the sympathetic system, RAS, and the antidiuretic hormone. Whereas we have to know the role of the atrial natriuretic peptide. There are different types of natriuretic peptide present in our system. A, B, and C. A is present in the atrium, so atrial natriuretic peptide. B is the brain natriuretic peptide, and C the C type natriuretic peptide. So these days they take the blood samples and they measure the ANP and the BNP to know the um, progression of the heart failure and also response to the treatment, how well the heart is responding. So ANP and BNP levels are measured accordingly. So let us see the benefits. What are the benefits that ANP has? So when there is heart failure, so there are hormones which gives pathological response and also beneficial response. So the pathological response we know because of activation of the RAS system, that happens the vasoconstriction, which further increases the blood pressure, sympathetic tone increases, aldosterone secretion increases, which causes the sodium and water retention. So these are all the pathological response which will further deteriorate the condition. So we also have beneficial effects. by the natriuretic peptides. So what does this natriuretic peptide does is that causes the vasodilatation, decreases the blood pressure, decreases the sympathetic tone, aldosterone level decreases. So that causes natriuresis and also diuresis and antifibrotic effects. And there is an enzyme which is called as naprilysin, which inactivates this natriuretic peptide. So the role of neprilysin is very crucial. So if that is present more, then that will inactivate the natriuretic peptide and the beneficial effects of the natriuretic peptides is dissolved. So to get it, we have to find a way, and we found a way, and this is the balance. So there will be some balance initially, and when there is more and more pathological response that increases, so that will cause a neurohormonal imbalance. And then pressure and volume overload. So pressure overload, so when there is increased afterload, and concentric hypertrophy, fibrosis happens. So example is when there is increased peripheral resistance. So hypertension is the major culprit, and also aortic stenosis. Volume overload, so increased preload. So eccentric hypertrophy, so this is ECM degradation happens. So the example is aortic and the mitral valve regurgitation. So that is the area opposite to the infarct region, and then VSD, ventricular septal defect, congenital defect. So concentric hypertrophy and eccentric hypertrophy, let us discuss more. So this is a normal heart and the normal myocyte. So in the pressure overload, when there is a stimulus, so there happens the concentric hypertrophy. So physiologically you can see in a strength training like weightlifting, wrestling and all. Pathologically in case of hypertension and aortic stenosis, so heart have thick walls and small cavities. So sarcomeres added in parallel series that increases the myocyte cell width. You can see the width of the myocyte. And then eccentric hypertrophy, which is due to the volume overload. So physiologically in the endurance training, like aerobic training, um, like swimming, long distance running and all. So pathologically it is seen in the valvular diseases. So hearts have thin walls and large cavities. So the walls become very thin. Sarcomeres added in series, increase in myocyte length you can see. So here it is added in series. There it is parallelly added, so the thickness increases. Here it is seriously added in series, so the length will increase here. So the volume overload, so increases the diastolic pressure. So this increased diastolic pressure, so that is series addition of new sacromere like this. So there will be chamber enlargement. You can see it is thin, but the cavity is larger as it is volume overload. Where in the pressure overload, so there will be increase in the systolic pressure. So the systolic pressure increase causes parallel addition of the myofibrils. So there will be thickening of the walls. So that causes the concentric left ventricular hypertrophy. So pressure overload, systolic dysfunction, that is when the ejection fraction is less than 50%. Normally the ejection fraction will be around 60 to 70%. So again come to the law of Laplace. So normally, so wall stress is PR by T in earlier stage. So the stress increases due to increased pressure. So later the stress normalizes due to decrease cavity size and in response to the increased thickness. So again it further progresses and that is the stage of hypertrophy and dilatation, so that the stress increases due to increase in pressure, cavity size and the wall thickness. So this is how it progresses. And then volume overload, that is because of the diastolic dysfunction. So here the ejection fraction can be normal. So you can see the normal myocardium here. So the wall stress is PR is equal to TPR by T, and in the next stage, that is stage of dilatation, only there is increase in the resistance, and then the stage of dilatation and hypertrophy, here the stress normalizes due to both increase in the R and the thickness. Stage of further dilatation, so that increases the stress as the dilatation exceeds the hypertrophy. So left ventricle does not fill enough blood, so heart muscle is becomes stiff and not able to relax. So coming to the clinical features, so there will be dyspnea, that is shortness of breath, and then orthopnea. So the patient will feel it difficult to lie down, and so they will sit. So to make to feel them to breathe easier. So this position is called as orthopnea. Paroxysmal natural dyspnea. So in the night, suddenly they develop in the lying position. They develop dyspnea, fatigue, and then the heart failure. Finally, brings the formation of edema. So edema is formed because of the various mechanism. So when there is, let us see one by one. So when there is decreased venous return, so there will be more venous pooling, venous pressure increases, capillary pressure increases, so capillary filtration increases, that gives the edema. Decreased cardiac output, so increased sympathetic activity, renal artery constriction, decreased GFR, and more retention of sodium and water. So because of the activation of the RAS, so that gives edema. So decreased cardiac output, so blood volume decreases, activates the renin. So again here the water retention, that also gives the edema. And then hepatomegaly in the right heart failure. So because of the venous congestion, the pooling in the vein increases, so that will give the hepatomegaly. So increased JVP, jugular venous pressure in right heart failure when there is the right atrial hypertrophy. So when the right sided heart failure happens, there will be we will get to see the increased JVP. Normally, we will not see jugular venous the jugular vein, but when there is right sided heart failure, we can see the increased JVP. So in the practical class, this has a major role. We will discuss during the practical classes. So ascites, so the excessive fluid gets retained in the peritoneal cavity. So that is the shift of excessive fluid from the venous system into the peritoneal cavity. And then this is the classification by the New York Heart Association. So there are four class. So class 1, there is no limitation of physical activity. Ordinary physical activity does not cause much symptom. So class 2, there will be slight limitation of physical activity. So there will be more comfortable at rest. So ordinary physical activity causes symptom. So class 3, marked limitation of physical activity. They will be comfortable at rest, but less ordinary activity causes symptom. Severe limitation and discomfort is class 4 with any physical activity. So here symptoms present even at rest. So these classification help to treat the patient accordingly and also to know the prognosis of the disease. Diagnosis can be made using electrocardiogram, so which will say as the hypertrophy of either right side or left side. Chest X-ray will give us the cardiomegaly picture. Echocardiography can show us the hypertrophy and also the ejection fraction, which is very important. So cardiac catheterization can show us where if there is myocardial infarction. Um, to clear the block, we can do the angioplasty, which will further help to treat the patient. And stress test that can be done with all the precautions, but you have to do it in a better setup. So management, so we have to treat the primary cause. So we have to know the heart failure is of what type and where the problem is. So we have to treat the cause, and then we have to restrict the diet. So diet plays a very important role. So we have to reduce the salt intake, fluid intake, which all will help to relieve the symptoms, and we can decrease the load to the heart. And digitalis, so that really works on the heart. Diuretics, so this is very important. This is a very important drug which will improve the quality of the patient's life. So if you give diuretics, that will decrease the load on the heart. So less load on the heart, less fluid on the heart, so that reduces the heart, the work of the heart. So there will not be much breathlessness, much not much edema. So the patient will not be dyspneic, typnic. So patient will start feeling better. Vasodilators, so they are very important to use. So to reduce the afterloads. So in case of hypertension, so these vasodilators plays a major role, and angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor and the AB inhibitors, so they also help to reduce the afterload. So neprilysin inhibitor, sacubitril, this is the you may not find it in your physiology book, but this is one of the latest addition, so which is doing a fantastic job. So this inhibition of the enzyme neprilysin will keep the natriuretic peptides active, which does the vasodilatation, and it's giving, so far it's giving an excellent result. So this sacubitril is given along with the valsartan. So in summary, heart failure due to pressure overload such as hypertension results in concentric ventricular hypertrophy, which is beneficial at the beginning. So dilatation of the heart occurs later in the uncompensated stage. So dilatation in hypertrophy happens to compensate. In heart failure due to volume overload, such as increased ECF volume, results in dilatation of ventricles from early stage, which is detrimental to the functioning of the heart. So books to read, to look for: G.K. Pal, Hindu Purana, Guyton and Hall, and William Gennon. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.